Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning. I think we are ready now to commence with the proceedings for today. Let me start off maybe by welcoming you all to the capacity building workshop on AGOA. And thank you all for making the time to come and be part of this event. We very much appreciate it. My name is Sibusiso Mnisi. I'm the manager responsible for external trade at the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority. So I'll be directing the proceedings for today. And maybe just to also acknowledge that we've got participants that are online, also part of this event. So we also acknowledge and welcome them. Before going any further, let me also acknowledge our CEO, who is represented by Dr. Kanyisile Dlamini, APA CEO, and also acknowledge Mr. Bongani Njangase, Executive Manager for Trade at APA, and also our partners, Mr. Tami Dlamini, who is the Portfolio Manager for the SADC region under the US Trade Hub in Southern Africa. And also we've got other people who are coming with him from the Trade Hub, the local office, just to acknowledge them. And then also yourselves. I think it's very much important that we acknowledge your presence, and thank you once again for coming. So we'll go straight to the program. Thank you very much. We'll go straight to the program. At this moment, I am going to thank you very much. Thank you. Maybe before we go straight to the program, I think it's appropriate that maybe we start off with introductions, just to have an appreciation of who is here. We know that this is part of the steering committee. So, but it's good to always, remind ourselves of who is here. Maybe if we can just start from this side, do the introductions, and then we'll proceed with the program. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mpiwa Kametse. I'm from the Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Eswatini.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sifiso Dlamini from the Ministry of Agriculture and the Marketing Department. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Daniel Msibi from SWIFT.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dumsile Smoleni from the leather industry.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kenny Shongo from Eswatini Senate Authority.
Morning. I'm Skumbuzo Mboisa from SETCO. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Thandeka Dlamini from Business Eswatini.
Good morning. I'm Kabota Bete from Facebook.
Okay, thank you very much for those introductions. I think now we've got an appreciation of who is here. I'll introduce maybe the speakers, so you don't have to worry about that. So we've got an appreciation of who is here. As we said, largely the steering committee of the AGOA implementation process. So we'll proceed with the program. So I will now request the CEO from EPA, Dr. Kanyisile Dlamini, to come and make her welcome remarks to the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Program Director, Mr. Mnisi. Good morning, everyone. Sanibonani, Dumelang. I'm here representing the CEO, Kanyisile Dlamini. First of all, I'd like to thank you for being part of the event today. This marks the first meeting, especially after the launch of the AGOA facilitation strategy implementation plan. This is key because it has brought together all the keynote stakeholders for the implementation of the AGOA strategy. For us as a country to actually be part of this, we need to be proud, especially as EPA, to be the ones that are co-hosting this event. We are hopeful that this event will bring together the minds and the experiences that are needed for the nation. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation, especially to the team that has brought together this wonderful meeting, especially our co-hosts, the USAID Trade Hub, as well as the EPA team. They have worked tirelessly to actually bring this together. A special thanks also goes to the Botswana team, the Ministry of Investment, Industry and Trade, that have actually are willing to, they have joined us online and are willing to share their experiences. And I'm sure from them we will learn a lot. I hope that the different facilitators this day will share their experiences and will be able to overcome the challenges we face as a nation in terms of implementing or utilizing the AGOA market that we have as a nation. I don't want to take much time, actually, as we know that there is much we need to learn. They are important speakers of the day. So I warmly welcome everyone, especially those online that are taking time to actually setting aside the time as well to be with us here. And I promise you this day will be full of fun and full of learning. I thank you all. Have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanyisile, for those remarks and giving us APA's perspective in terms of how we want to see this going forward. Thank you very much for that. So at this time, may I request our partners from the Trade Hub to come forward and also make their remarks to the participants. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Sanbonan. Thank you so much for this time. Special welcome and thanks to the representative of the CEO, APA, and Babem Kazi there, who we have been working with, who also represents the Secretariat of the AGOA implementation. And all the partners. I am very happy that we have quite a good representation of the key stakeholders in industry, which is critical for the success of the AGOA implementation strategy. Because the strategy itself is what will enable the private sector and the public sector to ensure that they fully utilize the benefits that are there or entailed in AGOA. I'll just run briefly and say what we are about as the USA Trade Hub, and then just a few remarks on what we are to do today. The USA Trade Hub is a project, it's a 6-year project that is implemented in 9 countries in the SADC region, which is Lesotho, Eswatini, Mozambique, Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, Malawi. Who else am I forgetting? I've counted Botswana, and the 9th one is South Africa. We work under 3 objectives, and the first one being to increase production, trade, and exports to South Africa from the different countries. In this instance, it's exports to South Africa from Eswatini. And we always say one of the key reasons is South Africa is our logical market, not just for Eswatini, but for all the other countries, mainly because their GDP is much higher than all our economies combined. Their population is quite massive. So it can support our products that we produce. And I think the other practical reason why we engage with the South African market is that it's an advanced market in the region. If you try and export to anywhere, you will see that if you can meet the South African standards, you can pretty much with a bit of tweaking and some certification or other requirements, you can meet what other markets want. So that's why we see South Africa as an important country. And also South Africa is industrialized, so you'll find that there are firms that need raw material from the countries around. So working with linking suppliers to South Africa also gives that opportunity that you can send your raw material, and indirectly those exports will end up in other economies, especially the US, which is the main focus of AGOA and the US government. And then what we support firms with under this objective, firstly, it's the linkages to the markets. There are buyers who always want products. And then the second thing is to make sure that once you have been linked to the buyers, you are able to deliver to the buyer. And we know that through consultations and research, one of the key challenges with selling to these markets, it's what we call trade barriers. So we implement trade enhancing services, and the most practical that we know is certification and getting firms onto platforms that make things easier, that make life easier for them to access South Africa. Because while South Africa has this huge population, it's also a complicated market. It's a fiercely competitive market. So we support firms to be ready to deliver to their promise that they have made to the buyers. And then on the second objective, it's about bringing or enabling increased access to finance for firms in these countries, mainly with focus on South African firms providing finance into these countries, and also access to technology from South African firms to firms in these countries. And again, we know that access to finance is one of the key impediments, especially for SMEs. So that is why this is very important. And then I think on the last one, which is the main reason we are here, it's to enhance the sustainable utilization of AGOA. AGOA itself has over 6,000, actually over 6,400 product lines that can be exported into the US, and buyers in the US can import those product lines duty-free and quite a number of them are quota-free. And as we know here in Eswatini, only a few of those lines are currently being utilized, which makes it that AGOA is still an open basket that we can use at least up until we know what will happen to it. I think it's in 2025, but between now and then, we are supporting the government through agencies that they have provided to us. More typically here, it's APA, as APA is the secretariat. So in this regard, we work on issues of capacity building, which is what we are doing here, because the government has set in place a structure that will ensure that AGOA is utilized profitably for the country. We also help with market linkages. Yesterday, we had testimonials of firms that are already exporting into the US through linkages that have been made as we have worked with trade promotion service providers, business management organizations, and firms. And then we also help with trade enhancing services. Typically in the US, you will find that you need to be registered with the FDA, amongst other bodies. So we support firms with that. The unfortunate part is the project is coming to an end. And the fortunate part is we have built capacity within our trade promotion service providers and other partners, and we are confident that they will be able to continue with this work. And whatever is needed, you should be able to get from the TPSPs. We also have tools that we will highlight towards the end of the day to say where can you access, because over the years we have built quite good tools that you can use to be able to meet clients, to engage with clients, to know how to market your products, and also to know who to contact here in Eswatini and outside, so that your deals work successfully for you. I think with that being said, that's just a quick introduction to what we do and what we are currently doing with our partners. For more information, we do have a website. If you look at the banner, you can see, and you'll get all the tools that I've spoken about. You'll get recordings of the webinars that we have conducted. We've conducted with partners quite a number of webinars with in the whole region, with partners from South Africa, from the US, and from the country offices. So you get all that information, even the contact details for Martin and Buli in terms of Eswatini. You will get that. You will get from there. And we are going to engage the whole day. So we are going to get to know more of what needs to be done. And I think APA will be guiding us through the process of how the day will go. Thank you so much. And may we have a good day.
Thank you very much, Ngozi, for your remarks, and also, I think, giving us an overview of what the Trade Hub is all about and how they are partnering with the Kingdom of Eswatini, including APA and other partners that are here, to assist in making sure that we access the US market. And the fact that the starting stone, maybe the starting point, is for us to go through the South African market, so that you can be sure that you are ready to then go to that overseas market in the USA. So thank you very much for giving us that highlight. At this stage, we're going to welcome Mr. Bongani Njangase to come and give us the training objectives. Why are we here? What is it that we intend to achieve, going forward? And So let me introduce Mr. Njangase to come up and give us his remarks as well. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bonganjangas, as already indicated by the program director. I'm from the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority, looking after the portfolio of trade promotion. Mine basically is to just give an overview of what we're trying to achieve with this session, with this workshop, and just how we're going to engage. As you may all be aware, AGOA, the African Growth Opportunity Act, was enacted in the year 2000, later extended in the year 2015 to go up to 2025. And this is the year 2022, which basically means we only left with about 3 years or so. That's quite a challenge on our side if we do a stock count to say what have we achieved through AGOA. I think later on during the program and during the day, we'll have a look at what we've achieved and also the challenges that we have currently on the ground. Now, our objective here is to review the progress made with in the implementation of the AGOA strategy and prioritize goods or products and also sectors to say in the next couple of years, what are the priority items that we'd want to focus on. That is very key because we don't have enough time to cover all products and all sectors. We also aim with this workshop to relaunch and also build capacity amongst the AGOA steering committee. And also we're trying to establish or forge a link to the National Trade Facilitation Committee. When the strategy was drafted, it was such that the National Trade Facilitation Committee would be the steering committee for AGOA. But there hasn't been much activity on the NTFC side. And I think some of the stakeholders, when we were discussing, we thought maybe let us continue and do something as a steering committee for the implementation of AGOA. Still not deviating from the provisions of the strategy that the steering committee would fit to the NTFC because we don't want to duplicate structures and roles. So we are hoping that having yourselves here as key stakeholders in the implementation and also your organizations being representatives represented in the NTFC, the National Trade Facilitation Committee, it does give us a leeway to progress and move forward with the AGOA implementation. We also hoping that by assembling the different entities here in this workshop, that we'll get full participation from the business membership organizations as well as the trade promotion service providers. When I talk about business membership organizations, it mainly includes your Chamber of Commerces. You've got the First Speak, you've got Business Eswatini, you've got the Youth Chamber of Commerce, you've got SWIFT, you've got leather associations, you've got FOTSWA, you've got the Sugar Association, you've got ITATA, quite a number of PMOs that we have in the country. Have them being of or enhanced our activities and efforts towards maximizing opportunities and optimizing opportunities that are availed by AGOA, as well as the trade promotion service providers like ourselves, EPA, your NAMBOD, your SWASA, the ERS, Dairy Board, just to mention a few, SEDCO as well as a TSPSE. We also have amongst ourselves government ministries that are key in terms of trade facilitation. That would be the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Commerce, Minister of Health, and other government departments. So having these representatives members or membership in AGOA steering committee will definitely enhance efforts in optimizing and improving trade through the AGOA provisions. It's also our objective today that we acknowledge that AGOA was actually launched, the AGOA strategy, sorry. In our case, it was launched in 2021, having been drafted documented in the strategy pre-COVID approaches and perspectives. COVID, as we know, the pandemic brought a lot of changes, priorities, a lot of changes in the way we engage as individuals and also as business. So now we're hoping that we'll also ask ourselves the question to say, is there a need for a review of the AGOA strategy, or there is no need, looking at the COVID pandemic? So we'd want to and the field have changed, the rules of engagement is still trying to implement the same strategy. So those are some of the objectives that we want to look at. At some point in time, we will break our way into groups to discuss and deliberate on these issues, and also to share experiences from our different institutions in those breakaway groups, which will then inform the overall direction to say, with what we have shared, and having the groups to come back and present, is there a need for us to move in these particular directions? What are the priority sectors? What are the priority products? What is it that we need to do as a collective, not as individual institutions or organizations? I think with those remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I would just say these are the high-level objectives, which obviously, as we discuss and engage, we will add in from our experiences to say we also need to have a look at this and have a look at this. I know I have maybe not mentioned the issue of the GSP versus AGOA, where you've got some companies that are still using the GSP to export to the US, when there's provisions in AGOA which are much better than what the GSP used to offer. So those are some of the items that we need to look at. I think the PMOs will need and members understand the differences between the GSP and the AGOA provisions, so that they no longer make reference to GSP in their exports. So those are some of the issues that we currently have on the ground that to address and trade on. Thank you very much, citizen. Wish you all a fruitful discussion and session.
It happened since the strategy was developed and launched. So I think we all now know what we need to engage on in terms of making sure that we implement this strategy as it is highlighted, in that document. So we'll be able to engage, on those issues as partners, PMOs, and also as the traders themselves. I think now we should be going to the video that is going to be shown just to further indicate the structure of the implementation committee. So the Trade Hub is going to help us on that. I'm reminded of what the CEO of Business Eswatini said, when we were hosting the annual Exporters Awards. I don't know if our partners were there and they remember that for him, the whole thing about AGOA, it is just a way of saying that we are trading ourselves, as Africa out of poverty. That is how he looked at the whole thing. And he was citing a whole lot of other authors that maybe he was referring from, all of his thinking. So I think if we go with that approach, from the private sector to say, this is a tool that is going to help us, make sure that the bottom line challenge that we're facing, which is poverty, we're able to trade ourselves out of that. If I may be allowed to quote what he said. So, we ready? They're still trying to prepare the video that we're going to play.
I should obviously say thank you very much to the USAID Trade Hub with the support of Westgrove for inviting us to this meeting. It is important for any agreement of this nature for us to take a moment and pause, reflect on the impact of the agreement in the work and the ecosystem we find ourselves in, because the only way we can maximize potential from it is if we do reflections of this nature. So on behalf of USAID Trade Hub and Westgrove, I just want to say thank you to you for making the time to travel the distances that you did to come and be part of this very important meeting. This is very much an event that has been organized by USAID Trade Hub, and its purpose is really for us to learn and to grow and to see how we can maximize potential out of the agreement. That has been enabled, of course, with generous support from Westgrove, which is the Cape Town and Western Cape Tourism Trade and Investment Agency. And to speak on behalf of Westgrove is the newly appointed CEO. Please welcome to the podium, Ronald Standard, the CEO of Westgrove.
It is indeed my privilege to welcome all of you to this unique AGOA regional learning event. And while I was meeting people this morning, I believe that we have 9 countries from the region in the room. I think this is absolutely spectacular. The next 2 days are really about partnership. And at Westgrove, we believe that collaboration is the key to success. And that is why we are really, really proud and privileged to be supporting this event. Now, for those of you that do not know Westgrove, Westgrove is the trade, tourism and investment promotion agency for Cape Town and the Western Cape province. In addition to the sort of traditional sources of funding, we also work in a space where we convene different stakeholders to try and achieve a certain outcome. So in line with our mandate, which obviously is mandated in legislation, Westgrow works to position the Western Cape as an investment destination of choice, a sought-after market globally, and a world-class tourism destination.
What is AGOA, and is it only about trade preferences? It's not. It's a much bigger thing than just about preferential market access. It's a platform for engagement, or forum for engagement, as I call it here, literally and figuratively, because it has created an avenue for African countries and the United States to work together and engage much more closely. But it's also a forum for engagement because the AGOA legislation mandates the annual holding of a trade and investment forum. And that has been taking place every year except for one in 2020 as a result of COVID.
My name is Frank O'Brien. I'm the Chief of Party of the USAID Trade Hub. One of the key takeaways for me is that the amount of potential of the whole program and the opportunity that it offers to the different countries and the exporters within the different countries is very considerable. And sometimes I think exporters or companies or individuals, because they don't fully understand the opportunity that's presented, they are reluctant to engage in this as a way forward. There are still 3 years remaining under this current program, and a lot of expertise through trial and error and through trying the process has been established across the region over the past 7 years. So building on that, there's still room for export growth, retaining exports, and gaining a footprint within the US market between now and 2025.
Good afternoon. My name is Gaurav Vijayavargiya. I'm from 260 Brands, based in Lusaka, Zambia. And, we've spent 2 days here in Cape Town, thanks to the USAID Southern African Trade and Investment Hub. And it's been a phenomenal, incredible experience over the last 2 days. Overwhelming in terms of the learnings that we've taken on board, having exported our first container to the US last year, and learning from various stakeholders in similar positions. There's been an incredible amount that I've learned and taken away to benefit to increase our trade to the US and also into the South African market.
My name is Mandela Skonyela. I'm working for the Lesotho National Development Corporation as a trade facilitation and promotion manager. I think the model that was adopted by Botswana to implement the AGOA response strategy could be a good benchmark for Lesotho. Firstly, coordination is at high level, where they engaged the minister and the PS's office. This will ensure that they get the buy-in from the highest ranking officers.
Hi, my name is Evan Swapo. I'm co-founder of Weave. Weave is a gentleman's lifestyle brand. We specialize in handmade leather ties, bow ties, pocket squares and suspenders, and other leather accessories. Obviously, it's small beginnings, but all creative action needs is just a workspace, and this is exactly what it is. And we've been here for about 7 years. And as we just showed them, everything's produced here by hand. We make everything we do, we make with love. We absolutely love what we do. And to know that there is incredible. And thank them for their work, and it's also just the support for entrepreneurs like myself.
I think with all the presentations that took place yesterday, leveraging and benefiting from AGOA is more critical now, such that the renewal is going to be done in less than 3 years. So I think the time is now to act, and we need to leverage the duty-free benefits that we have, especially for products that are in our value chain, and we work on soy and maize, and I think that's something that we'll try and act on.
My name is Justine Schaefer, and I'm the third generation of Cape Cobra Leathercraft. We are a family business established in 1972, and we specialize in manufacturing exotic leather handbags and accessories, proudly made in Cape Town, South Africa. We are celebrating 50 years this year, and we're really looking forward to the next 50 years. I'm coming into the business with a new energy. We are expanding our own brand into the US market, and we are looking to compete with international brands and show them that South African-made products are just as good as they are in Italy and France.
I would like to take this opportunity to really thank the USAID team. You guys have done a phenomenal job so far, and I think it's very sustainable what has been done. There's been a lot of technical assistance and support that we have definitely benefited from, like many others that you've supported, and we're very grateful for the support, and look forward to continued support. And thank you very much.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. I think you have seen for yourself, what AGOA is all about and some of the positive results, that other traders, because the ultimate beneficiary in the whole thing is the trader. Traders from other countries, giving their testimony in terms of how they've benefited from this. So I think we appreciate, and hopefully at some point we can be able to maybe, have quite a number, from Eswatini also giving the same testimonies on how AGOA has changed their businesses, changed their lives, and how it has contributed into the much needed, agenda of economic growth, which is what we are all about at the end of it all, making sure that we sort issues of poverty and all of that. I think also noting the agency. I think the agency is there for us to make sure that we quickly get traction and we do work, as a steering committee, because 2025 is right around the corner. I think Mr. Dlamini from the Trade Hub did indicate that even the support from the hub can only go so far. And then we as partners, members of the committee, we then need to take it and run with it. If you look at the action plan, the strategy itself, it is speaking to everyone, be it standards, be it trade facilitation, be it even the business membership organization in terms of how they should also be capacitated and be ready to play their role, up to even the traders themselves. So I think we have a lot of work. We need to move very, very fast and make sure that at least come 2025, we have something to show as a country, or whenever we do a review of this document, we are able, or maybe they go to that event again where they were in Cape Town, and we are able to say, as Eswatini, we think we have also been able to do ABC, which has translated to so much in terms of addressing the objectives of the kingdom. So thank you very much for the video. So now we go to item on our program, which is an overview of the AGOA strategy and the action plan. And the lead on this is the Ministry of Commerce. I'm supposed to play a supporting role. So what does it mean, Mr. Masilela? It means I play the leading role because I don't want to step into other people's, they are supposed to take the lead in terms of giving us the overview. All right. Maybe I've been told that maybe let's just break for tea because it's already about 10. Discuss, share, network in terms of what we have discussed so that when we come back, we then just move with it. So I'm going to give you tea is normally 30 minutes. So if we can come back here at now it's 5 to 10, 25 past 10, we start again. So maybe then we will have representation from the ministry and we take it forward. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We trust that you enjoyed your tea. You are now refreshed and ready to engage. In our program, we're supposed to do an overview of AGOA, which was going to be led by the Ministry of Commerce, the Department of International Trade. But we have been informed that the person who is doing that will join us maybe in an hour's time. So we think maybe in the meantime, let's just go ahead and highlight some of the key issues that are on this document to show that we have ownership, because that's very important, that the committee demonstrates that level of ownership and readiness to move with the document. Next time, maybe I will not be able to be part of the meeting. Someone from the leader association can take the document, unpack it. I think that is how it's supposed to be, to demonstrate the ownership amongst ourselves. So I think we'll just proceed. My colleagues will be helping me, there and there, because the person responsible maybe had prepared a presentation. So, but let's just move with it. So I think in the intro, in the formalities, the welcome remarks and all of that, a lot has been mentioned about AGOA, why it's here, how it's going to benefit us and all of that. But I'll just do just an overview, just to refresh our minds so that we know that the document is still the same, the strategy is still the same in terms of what we need to implement. So the ultimate goal, I think, was mentioned, which is to increase and diversify exports to the USA. I think that's the obvious one in terms of us saying we export to other countries, to other regions. So let's also look at the USA, as an alternative market as well. Later on, I'll be sharing the figures. The figures used to be good, for Eswatini when exporting to that market. But what we have now, it's really not a good picture, where I think that's where we come in as a committee to change that. So obviously to stimulate growth of light manufacturing industry. The other one, of course, being to attract and increase investment from the USA to the kingdom. I think when you look at the fact that some of our investors that are here are already, are from America, from the USA, They are setting up here with a view to access the American market. So I think we can maybe increase that, have more. Because all it is saying is if you are a business person in the USA and you are looking at your suppliers for whatever product, it's better to source from Africa under AGOA. It's better to source from Eswatini, which is also a beneficiary of AGOA. Because of the obvious fact that you get the preferences and all of that. I think that was mentioned. And then also to foster the development of sustainable capacity for value addition. That is also very, very important, as an objective of a goal of the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, benefiting Africa. It was mentioned AGOA was extended from 2015 to 2025. Obviously, there will be reviews, midterm reviews. 2025 is around the corner. I think we have said that. So we need to make sure that the speed in which we are going as a committee is very, very fast. We don't want to come back and report and say, but we want to address the bottom line, which is making sure that we increase our exports to the USA. So obviously, as you can see, the partnership with the hub, it's aimed at building our capacity. Those are some of the things that are contained in the document. Looking at eligibility of countries' beneficiaries, it addresses that. I'm not sure of the figure now, but maybe the colleagues from the hub can remind me. But we are part of the beneficiaries. Other countries in the region, I think there are 54 states in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, some may not be part of the AGOA Act, but most of them are in that are beneficiaries of this trade arrangement. So, which means a level of competition will be there because they also want to target the same market we're targeting, getting the same preferences. The strategy also highlights things that are very key, in the document. If you go through it, I've been told that you are going to get a copy. It's on the way. So if you go through it, or maybe you have, because I think this is not the first time we are meeting. So it gives us a good profile of Eswatini. Looking at the challenges that we are facing as a country, population structure, issues of unemployment, issues of infrastructure, issues of competitiveness, which is maybe where really I think our intervention can also come in because we are representing different agencies. The issue of ease of doing business. I think when you go through it, it will show you that things are not improving here. We used to be number 112, but now we have gone to 121 under the World Bank, out of 188 countries. So that picture is not good. And you cannot be able to address issues of exports if these are not improved. Fortunately for us, where it matters the most, trade facilitation, that component, we are one of the best in Africa. I think trading across borders, maybe some of us are aware of that. That's where we are doing good. The last time I checked, we were number one. I don't know if we are still number one because these things, they change. But at the time of doing the document, the strategy, the kingdom was number one on trading across borders. And then obviously, the document will also profile the key stakeholders. If you go to it, it will tell you about Eswatini, what they are all about, what they do, their challenges, and how they can be overcome so that they are effective in terms of what they are rendering. So APA is there, Business Eswatini is there, Facebook is there, Swift is there, all of the key partners, that are involved in trade. So the document will go into that and profile them in the manner that I've said it, not only highlighting what they are doing, what are the challenges in their view, what do they think are the challenges that are preventing them from giving out all of their services. Why is it that traders are maybe not using standards and all of that? It's there in the document, the constraints, and then the proposed interventions, because when they were doing the document, they did a lot of consultation. A lot of consultation went into it. So that's why you've got this very good profile. I mean, you can just take it and read. Obviously, it applies then. Maybe things have changed now. Yeah, but it's there. I think I think the day, or when was it, on Tuesday, we had Eswatini here, and when you hear the Mr. Villan is saying that you are now close to attaining your mutual accreditation in terms of your standard process. So it effectively means we can now run with that brand. I was even saying to him, when that happens, tell us so that we can also market the mark, and say that when I go to any event, I say our products will have this mark now. It is mutually accredited. The UK, they recognize Eswatini, USA, they recognize Eswatini, and they are happy with what they are doing. So that is helping us in the issue of competitiveness. So when the document was formulated, that was not there probably, but we are happy with those advancements. So it's showing us that we are on the right track. Also, the most important, the trade flow. It goes into our trade flow and it paints again a picture which is not good. We once exported 52 million annually to the US when we started, I think in year 2000. Niyakhumbula nakuqala ema-factory like textile. Employing Mr. Masilela close to 40,000, if I'm not mistaken. 35. So we need to take it back to that period, because we went up to 198 million exports. You can multiply, I don't know the exchange rate, then maybe around 10. So we're really, pushing, our exports to the USA. But 2018, when they did this analysis, we are at 33 million. And probably when we do our own analysis, we are even less now, probably less than 20 million. My colleague who is doing the analysis is not here. She was going to give us the latest in terms of 2021. Because we are able to give you, we can even give you for last month. We don't have a problem, because we have to keep track of all of these things, know where we are going. But if you look at the imports from sub-Saharan Africa to the US, 25 billion in 2017, 25 billion. We are at 33 million. 54 countries. The most disturbing thing is they account for less than 2% of total imports to the US. So I think that should just give you a picture that even the other African countries are not pushing, because the US is a big market, you know. So if you account for only that, then things are not good for us. So we need to maybe say Eswatini can up the game, and maybe we be ranked with one of the most exporting countries to that region. The tariff lines, I think that was mentioned. We all know 6,400. Mr. Njang has highlighted that some are even using GSP. You know, we don't know why, because GSP, these are preferences, you know, but they don't guarantee you duty-free zero. They can, you'll find that you're charged 5%, but with AGOA, zero, no duties. Obviously, there are requirements that you need to fulfill in terms of importing direct to the USA, making sure that in terms of rules of origin, we are there. It's a pity that SRA is still not here, invited as well. You meet that threshold. And then the most important for our textile, third country fabric provision, you know, when the extension was made, one of the things that Africa was pushing for to the USA was to say, please make sure that you give us a double extension. Give us an extension to access the market, but link it to the third country fabric provision so that our textile and apparel can thrive. The figure that I mentioned, the 198 million US dollars at some point, that was textile. Employing for 35,000 with about over 30 to 40 companies. Today, we are back at 23 with only one company exporting being owned by Eswatini. So I think First Big Leather Association, SEDCO, you need to ask yourself a question. Why is that? Why can't we bring in these people so that we can be able to export and increase our share? Then the strategy goes into the general constraints, you know, in terms of why are we not able to really export, you know, touching on a lot of things. In terms of challenges with issues of VAT refund for the textile and apparel, challenges of meeting standards, challenges of not even being aware of how to export to the USA, which I think to a very large extent, our partnership with the hub has helped, because if you say now you don't know how to export to the USA, maybe I will say that will be because you're not part of the webinars that they've been running, or you have not seen that. But the information is there. If you go to their portal, everything, social media, how to make sure that you improve your social media, e-commerce, all of that, importing food and beverages, cosmetics, leather, it is all there in detail, well explained. Who are the buyers? It is all there. So the document is highlighting that, but I think that gap has been closed to a certain extent. We still need to do more, obviously, as a team. And then the other thing that the document goes into, because we don't want to just fire, you know, at anything, we need to zero in to what we think can work for us. It's very clear there. The prioritized sectors, handicraft. That's the sector that is accounting for the many sales now that we have to the USA. Obviously, I think also sugar sometimes will come in because of our quota, but those guys are pushing. When you go to textile, as I said, the last time I checked, if we do export, it's in small quantities. Most of them are now in the SADC market. So it means we need to bring in more, either from an investment point of view or the much preferred growing our own indigenous so that they can start this business. Thola nje luhulumba ngala kalavumisa nibahlanganise sithola umuntu afake imshini. Even this what is even willing to train them on how to do it, because the current 23 or more traders in textile, they are stretched already. They are saying, sometimes I have to ask the other company to help me, process that order. So you see that we need to bring in more. Sibambisene nje sonke boSEDCO kuma estates, maybe we just change one of them to create a whole. We put them there, push very hard. We look for markets, buyers. Guaranteed we can get them. It's even easy to start because you start with you work with the local traders that are in the textile industry. They will say, "Do it for me. I'll be guiding you." And then after you say, "Hey, now I'm on my own. I'm looking for my own markets." So it's possible. But so we have handicraft, horticulture, leather. I'm glad that you're here. We have sugar. Obviously, sugar is getting a quota. Yeah, they have a quota to export to the USA. So sometimes they just utilize that quota, and our exports will look good because it's in large quantities. Then textile and apparel, which I've talked about, which is no longer going to that market, jewelry and semi-precious stones. These are the sectors that have been identified. So first week, SEDCO, as I said, the leather, Swift, these are our sectors. These are your sectors. You have the members, that can produce for this. So, and then the strategic outcomes, the document is very clear in terms of what is supposed to happen when all is done to perfection, 100%, because we don't just want to do things, but we need to know where we want to go to. And then, of course, the action plan, which is also well articulated, in the document. I'm just trying to, you will pardon me. Maybe in the meantime, can I request for additions from the team? Guidance also, because I'm standing in for someone, so I'm just trying to paint the picture.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Gos.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mnisi. I think part of the work that we need to do is for the sector leads and business management organizations and the trade promotion service providers to pick up from the document what it is that they are doing, because one of the key things that is missing and is usually missing, it's the data, because for example, agriculture would know where to source the data, And a lot of times when reporting is done, it's underreported. So maybe what the steering committee would also want to concentrate on is how to pick up some of this data. I noted, especially under agriculture, there is always a lot of underreporting. And my suspicion is there are too many areas where this data sits. So there is a need to pick up that data. And maybe today we can even go through, when we do the exercise, to say, if you're a sector lead, which are the organizations that you think should be included in the strategy? Because in the implementation plan, there'll always be the person responsible, but also the other actors who are responsible at a secondary level. So data is key, because that's what helps to make decisions. And then again, it's just planning on how the strategy will be reviewed, even if it's not the physical review, but just to keep tabs on what you are doing towards AGOA, because that will then give the gaps that needs to be addressed for capacity building, for I think for your financial decisions and for the government's financial decisions.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Ngozi, for highlighting that. So I think on my side, that will just be the overview. Maybe I will not go into the action plan, which I think maybe we have seen it, because it's very, very detailed in terms of what the document is saying. Maybe when the next presenter, when he's going through his presentation, then you'll be able to pick up, the issues in terms of the gaps, which Umlangeni has said, and also knowing where we are now, what is happening now. Mine was just to touch on the overview so that we can all understand that we are part of this, and we can all contribute to make it work. So I think maybe let's go to the next presenter, Mr. Masilela, with your permission, so that we can just look at where are we now, because I think Mr. Mkazi will look into that and the gaps, as Tammy has said, and then we then just prepare ourselves. What do we do now? Thank you very much. Oh,
All right. Thank you, Program Director. Whilst we're still waiting for my slides to come through, maybe just to highlight a few issues in terms of where we are. The first thing that we need to appreciate is the strategy was developed. It is available to all of us and will be shared, because even though it was launched some time back, chances are we haven't looked at it in recent times. Strategy, maybe that would be a challenge. So it will be coming through, the full document will be shared with yourselves. But I'm not sure if we have electronic copies of same as well. If I may ask, so that we share the electronic copies in Dobana Mshinin. Does anyone have, is anyone who doesn't have an electronic copy of the strategy? Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, that is fine. So I think we consider the download or we just share it via email so that you have it in your machines. The way it was formatted and arranged is such that it was arranged according to sectors, different sectors, and each sector or each page would give you the objectives to say this is the objective, these activities that needs to be implemented, and these are the performance indicators for that activity to be implemented or deliverables. And then we'd have to identify the lead person to say who is taking this item and who is not taking this item and so forth. So later on, when we are breaking into groups, the documents will be here. That's the item that we need to look at on the strategy to say, do we want to prioritize this particular item, yes or no, or we don't think it's a priority. If it is a priority, then we will have to look at that. So it's quite a number of things. But also to say where we are, I think we are currently in terms of trading with the US. The US is our 13th global partner in terms of exports, where we are exporting. Last year, we exported about 18 million US dollars, 18 million US dollars, which is quite low. I think comparing ourselves with Lesotho exported almost double this figure last year. Not necessarily that we should be trying to beat Lesotho, but it's just an indication to say there's a lot of potential in terms of exports to the US. Other countries are making it big there because of tapping into that potential. In terms of imports, we import a lot from the US. They are our 5th global partner, which last year with about 30 million imports from the US. Again, to give you a bigger picture, South Africa is our largest trading partner by far, as you may all be aware. And then your China, mainland China, your India's and other parts of Europe, they would follow. And then maybe the US would come in there. That's why they're at number 5 in terms of exports. Our focus would be on exports in this particular case, not on imports, because AGOA is a non-reciprocal arrangement. We are benefiting, and from our imports from the US, they are not necessarily benefiting. Can I have the next slide? In terms of what we are currently exporting, it's a lot of sugar to the US, chemical ethanol products, jewelry, tableware, kitchenware, and other articles of finishing, mainly, which also includes our handicraft sector. We import a lot there. Timber and wood products, bags, binders, and other packaging materials, fruits, nuts, edible products that we are exporting to the US, including our chutney, spices, sauces, and so forth. The textiles industry is also still exporting, but these are the major ones. There are quite others which are very low in terms of the volumes and the figures, the amounts concerned. I will not cover the imports because AGOA is meant to promote exports, but we do import a lot from the US as well, by far compared to our exports. The next slide. In terms of achievements so far, well, we're building up from achievements of the past to say our sugar and textile and specialty foods are still being exported to the US, which is part of our leading products. We've got some companies that are consistently exporting to the US from these sectors. We've had capacity building and webinars on exporting to the US some of them facilitated by the Trade Hub, the USA Trade Hubs, and other forums, on to say what are the requirements in terms of exporting to the US. How do you register with the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration unit or department for your exports and so forth. We've had quite a number of webinars, some of them being sector-based, some of them being general. We've had big business linkages and virtual meetings, one-on-one meetings virtually with a number of companies from the US. Especially in recent times, our inward missions and the buyer-seller missions, we've had them online. We used to host American companies coming through, and you'd have Eswatini going to the US for business presentations. But now these are held virtually. I think during COVID, we had quite a lot of activity on the virtual space. The textile industry is one of the industries that was meant to benefit largely, hugely during the COVID pandemic. The US was looking for PPE products, and they were willing to offer Eswatini companies. But unfortunately, the volumes that they were looking at were volumes that we couldn't produce as a country. So a number of companies were engaged, some prospectives to a certain degree. But yeah, there were opportunities that were missed at that point in time because of our inability to meet the volumes and standards. Collaborations with yourselves that are ongoing in terms of promoting to the US, promoting e-commerce platform. We've had some of our Eswatini companies being listed on Amazon.com. You have your Black Mambas that already have products that are available on Amazon.com. Eswatini Kitchen already have got their products available on Amazon.com. So we've had considerable improvements, but there's still more that we can do. I'm just mentioning two companies that are already trading on the online platforms, but there's really nothing stopping us from listing all our products on the Amazon.com. We also have got the buyeswatini.com platform, which is a free platform for companies that are here in Eswatini for listing and giving them exposure in the global space. Can I have the next slide? In terms of challenges and gaps that we need to look at, I think the issue of companies exporting under GSP has already been highlighted. We need to try to look at that and assist those companies and try to unpack the differences between GSP and AGOA in terms of them exporting and referencing their products as they go to the US. The issue of the AGOA Steering Committee, which is what we are trying to address today, as indicated earlier on, that it's supposed to have a link to the National Trade Facilitation Committee. But then again, maybe we can still continue to have the AGOA Steering Committee functioning, and because it's subcommittee in a way of the NTFC, but it has got a clear, distinct mandate. The mandate does not necessarily depend or rely on the NTFC, but in terms of the national trade facilitation mandate in the country, it then reports to the NTFC because of that. Eswatini's Global Competitive Index is a challenge for all of us. We know how competitive or how uncompetitive we are as Eswatini, especially in recent times with the political situation in Eswatini. So people, when thinking about Eswatini, a lot of things come into their mind besides business. So that has put us on a back foot. So we are still struggling and trying to get through that. Hopefully things will improve and we'll get to be competitive. But if there are things that we can do to work on that, to improve our competitiveness, that would be that will help a lot in terms of our exports. Silent competition amongst the BMOs and trade promotion service providers. Somehow, some of our entities, organizations, they tend to be in competition instead of complementing each other. This is a huge problem because the mandate is the same. It's to promote trade, promote business, assist business in terms of exports and imports or whatever. So now if then these entities and these organizations are in competition amongst themselves, then it becomes a problem, because where we need to collaborate and where we need to share information and where we need to share opportunities with others, then because of this, the silent competition, you find that companies are not benefiting and our exports are hindered in that extent. So I would still want to see one day having a session where you've got 1 or 2 or 3 BMOs working together, instead of this one hosting their own event and this one hosting their own event on the side, when at the end of the day, the mandate and what they're trying to achieve, it's the same. That we really need to work around, especially because I think the people that are involved, are concerned in that, are in this room at this point in time. So we as EPA would want to work with everyone. We don't mind working with the Youth Chamber of Commerce, SWIFT, Facebook, or Business Eswatini, or whatsoever. But also, if we could get to a point where everyone is willing to work with everyone openly, because we are promoting business. The slow uptake on e-commerce, it is a problem as well for Eswatini business community, because in terms of exports, e-commerce is the way to go. There is no way around it. So we still need to work around that in ensuring that the Eswatini businesses, they appreciate and move towards e-commerce platforms instead of shying away from them. We note with great appreciation the work that is done by yourselves. I know SWIFT does a lot of work in assisting their members in terms of trading online through consolidated efforts, and other associations that are here. So we still need to work around that. Some big companies are able to do that by themselves, but a number of MSWAT are still shying away from that, maybe because of lack of understanding and appreciation of how e-commerce works. So these are some of the challenges that we are currently facing and that we need to address as a steering committee to make improvements in the AGOA space. Do we have another slide, or this is the last one? Oh, this is the last one. Okay, thank you very much. I think having said that, then it is, well, in order to say we have issues on the ground, we have a strategy that was developed, which we are going to look at. But also with the strategy, we are not able to penetrate through into the US markets or make improvements in that space. Then the question would be, what is it that we can do? Can we make improvements? Can we work around some of these challenges? Can we pick up items or sectors and products that we would want to focus on? What is it that we can really focus on and do? So I think with this, I would want maybe to invite comments for now at this point in time. on some of the challenges and or opportunities and achievements, if there are any comments, and also even if it's to open my eyes in case I was looking at it from a different perspective and you have a different view or angle to what I'm saying, I would appreciate that so that we're all in one accord. Yes, I think the microphone is with Babingal.
Yeah, okay, no, thank you so much. My name is Mfundo Msibi. I'm from the University of Eswatini. It's been a very interesting presentation so far. I think now, looking at everything that you have said, I am just interested to know whether as a country, have we ever conducted a study maybe to identify our capacity, even the untapped one? Because maybe the strategy may be focusing on industries that are already in existence. But what about the potential that is probably untapped, and probably maybe what can we do as a country to probably take advantage of that? Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Thank you. Maybe it's just a comment, maybe, and a few clarifications, sort of, with your last slide.
Okay.
In the slide with challenges, it's coming out that one of the challenges is the AGOA steering committee, and I'm just trying to get maybe a clarification if the other challenges or gaps, are they also part of maybe one of the functions that the steering committee has to maybe do?
If the other 2, 4, 5 are linked to the AGOA steering committee, he's saying there's one, but there's others. Are these others linked to the? That's the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Maybe let me try to respond in the meantime, and my colleagues will assist. I'll start with Babemfundo, what he raised in terms of conducting a study in terms of potential. I think as members of business, we know that data and information is readily available. What is it that we can produce? What is it that we cannot produce in terms of demand? Because you're looking at it from, I think the question was more on the demand perspective to say, can we produce this? Is the market for it? If I understood carefully, or unless you're speaking about our shortcomings, which again would be readily available. We've got websites, we've got data, we've got the ITC, we've got our own entities, IPA and the SRA, where data is readily available. Where if we are, let's pick a product, for example, bottled water. We can get information on how much bottled water the US is consuming. We can get information on how much Eswatini is producing. We can get information in terms of the logistics, in terms of shipping bottled water from Eswatini to the US. You can get information in terms of the cost. It's readily available. I think for business, these are the basics that you start with. So it's from my perspective, I don't think we just need a comprehensive study per se, but whosoever is interested in a particular sector just needs to consolidate that information. Data is readily available. You've got ITC websites, you've got other websites that are available that gives us such information. I may not be aware of any specific research. I think Babi wants to help me so that I understand him carefully. Thanks, Babi.
Yeah, I'm sorry for turning it into a conversation.
No,
Maybe-
no, it's fine. Help me out.
Yeah, okay. I think now, for me now, where I am, it's on the capacity side. I appreciate the demand that is actually out there, but now in terms of the like, if we now look that we do have the capacity to produce this, but we are not doing it, what are the potential impediments, and really what do we have capacity to actually produce, given maybe the resources that we are endowed with as a country?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. I think Masilela has got his hand up.
Okay, yeah, thanks. In terms of studies, I don't know if you're privy to the Eswatini Economic Diversification Study that was done by the African Development Bank. Obviously, I mean, we can do studies after studies after studies, but at the end of the day, we need to ensure that there is implementation. So there is an economic diversification study that was done by the African Development Bank to basically look at the competitive advantages of Eswatini and some of the products where we actually have competitive advantage. So that study already outlines where Eswatini can actually play competitively compared to other countries. Now, when this document was actually compiled, this AGOA strategy, there was a consultant that was basically consulting the key stakeholders, the sectors, and to identify the sectors and the products where we think within the 6,500 product tariff lines that are eligible for AGOA, Eswatini can actually play from. There are those sectors and there are those products. I think Mnisi did allude to that. So I think for me, it's a question of what have the previous studies identified, and then looking at the, I think here, this document also outlines weaknesses and opportunities. If you try to look at it from the different sectors, and then it tells us, and then it outlines some recommendations that pertains to a particular sector. So I think we've got enough information as to playing competitively as far as AGOA is concerned. Hence, we are emphasizing on the issue of the steering committee to say, let there be a structure that actually drives implementation. As far as knowledge is concerned, I think we've got the knowledge. So now we need to build that capacity to actually drive implementation. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Masilela. Getting to the question by Bengalana, to say all these other challenges are the responsibilities of the AGOA steering committee. I would say no, they're not responsibilities of the AGOA steering committee. The key responsibility for the AGOA steering committee is to promote trade through AGOA. But as you are promoting trade through AGOA, these are the challenges that you're going to face. So we need to be aware of them, address them where we can, but not to try to be a Jesus for Eswatini. As we are promoting AGOA, we'll face these challenges. And it will then become a challenge that will be standing before us. So we cannot ignore it. Okay, we'll have to do whatever we can to fix or try to resolve some of these challenges, but not necessarily to say these are the AGOA steering committee. Ours is to promote and enhance and facilitate trade through AGOA. So we'll need to work around these as we proceed. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes.
Yes, thanks, Mkaz. Just one quick comment. One of the challenges and gaps that you highlighted was this low uptake on e-commerce. So I'd like to draw your attention to the, so there's a study that the Hub conducted. It's called Digital Impact Study. We we can circulate that, but it is available in our website if you go to www.satihub.com. So there's a digital impact study basically looking at the uptake of digital utilization or digital tools by companies, more particularly within the complex environment in which trade is being undertaken. So that study will give you some clues of what direction companies are actually adopting to leverage the availability of technology to enhance their trade and competitiveness. So I think if you download that study and then look into it, you'll get some pointers. Probably it's one of the solutions that we can have in as far as the slow uptake on e-commerce is concerned, because companies are utilizing those tools to enhance their competitiveness. Yeah, we can also circulate that study for you just to read and just have a broader understanding of how companies have actually re-engineered themselves to uptake technology for their own competitiveness. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Masilela. Any other comments? No comment at the moment. Okay. In the document that has been circulated, if you go to page 63, on page 63, that's where some of the action items are listed in terms of the AGOA strategy to say these are the things that needs to be done. From page 63 all the way. But as you go through to page, as you approach page, page 74 or so, you then find sector-specific action items, which are speaking, for example, on page 74, you've got one for the handicraft sector, you've got one for the jewelry sector, leather products, horticulture and agro-processing, textile sector, and so forth. They are now sector-specific. So these are some of the items that were identified and listed in the strategy to say these things needs to be done. The ones that are not sector-specific are applicable to all of us. For example, let me just take the second one, which is saying create adequate awareness of the AGOA facility and US markets needs. I think it speaks to it links to what Fundo was saying in terms of creating linkage to say, can we produce this? This is what the US market is looking for. So that those action items are then applicable to all of us, especially with our members and our clients, the ones that we service. And then when you go on to the ones that are sector specific, then it speaks to our different interests to say, as an association or as a company, you are interested in the handicraft sector or in the agro-processing sector or in the leather sector or whichever sector that you are interested. So these are some of the activities or action items that we have in the strategy that we are probably going to look at later on when we break into the different groups. Program Director, may I hand over back to you at this point in time so that we proceed.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Mkazi for taking us through. What I would say is the state of play in terms of where things are and the gaps and all of that. I think we now have an appreciation. The challenges as listed here, some of them pointing to us as the steering committee. So I think we have that appreciation. Thank you very much, Mkazi. Maybe before we go to the next one, I had a question for Uniswa. Did you have something in mind in terms of when you said focusing on the existing sectors? I thought maybe you will say such as this one, which maybe you have discovered, because that's where things are coming from. Just a follow-up, not to put you on the spot, really.
Unfortunately, you've successfully put me on the spot.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I think maybe from our side, it wouldn't really be something we don't have the data now, but I think I was asking the question to see how we can probably assist probably in terms of gathering that kind of information.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I wouldn't really speak at the top.
So from a research perspective,
yes,
assisting us on that. No, it's good to know that that assistance is available, because as we go along, definitely in these various portals we're talking about, you will also coming in to share your expertise. No, thank you very much. So at this time, I'm told we're going to have some videos on AGOA. Mr. Masilela will lead us on that, and then I'll come back and take you through what is going to happen going forward. Thank you.
The African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. The African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA for short, is a United States legislation that enhances market access to the U.S. The African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA for short, is a United States legislation that enhances market access to the U.S. for eligible African countries. How is this done? By allowing duty-free imports into the United States for thousands of different products that originate in sub-Saharan Africa. With no duty payable, your product can enter the U.S. market at more competitive prices. This makes them more affordable to U.S. customers, increasing demand and ultimately bolstering economic and business growth in Africa.
AGOA comes with a lot of benefits because it puts our pricing at a competitive level, which makes our products very affordable.
Having our products getting into the US duty-free makes a massive difference as far as breaking into that market.
The consumers in America are paying less for our products.
To benefit from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, four general eligibility requirements must be met. Firstly, the country of export must be eligible. In Southern Africa, this includes Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, the DRC, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, and Zambia. Secondly, the product must be eligible. There are more than 6,400 products that qualify under AGOA for duty-free access. Product eligibility can be found in the harmonized tariff schedule classifies thousands of different products from silk to soap and footwear. Part of the filing that the importer has to complete. The value is usually based on which is the price you invoice the importer, plus certain additional amounts that they may need to pay, such as packing costs, commission. A product would be considered transformed if, for example, it contained parts or materials from several different countries. In these cases, there are certain rules that determine its eligibility under AGOA. These are some of the fundamentals of U.S. customs law and AGOA eligibility. Being familiar with them will help you make the most of the benefits. You'll find out more detailed information and links in the AGOA Export User Manual. Or find out more by contacting the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub. If you export agricultural products, food, or beverages to the United States, there are specific requirements that apply. They entail upfront and ongoing work and investment. AGOA for short. The first requirement is registration with the United States Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. Under U.S. regulations, any entity or facility that manufactures, processes, packs, labels, holds, or takes possession of food intended for human or animal consumption in the U.S. must register with the FDA. Registration is compulsory and free. It is only a first step and not a permit or approval for you to export your goods. You also need to allow your facility to be inspected by the FDA so it can ensure that food is safe and uncontaminated. Products packed in cans, glass, semi-rigid or flexible pouches require additional documentation as well as registration with the food canning establishment.
So the FDA is the authority that vets all products coming into America to ensure that they are safe and quality controlled to their standard.
I think the most important thing is to be compliant with all the FDA requirements above anything else. Your labeling is one of the most critical things on your packaging because that determines what is inside the jar.
A second crucial requirement pertains to nutrition labeling. The FDA has established comprehensive rules around what information labels must contain and how that information must be shown. For example, nutritional facts must be presented in a certain order using prescribed fonts and font sizes, although you can choose from different formats. It's crucial to comply with the labeling rules, as products that don't may be detained at port. A food labeling guide is available online. User manual.
Your labels have to be FDA compliant. You need to make sure that the nutritional requirements, spacing, and what the look and feel of the label is correct.
You must be able to read what's on the label. And if you don't comply with just the very basics, your consignment will be detained.
Then there are requirements of the Food Safety Modernization Act, which represents the biggest change to U.S. food legislation in 70 years. The act states that if you manufacture, process, pack, or hold food for consumption in the U.S., you must write and institute a food safety plan. Without doing this, you may become ineligible to export your goods to the U.S. You also need to comply with the Foreign Supplier Verification Program, which has requirements for you and the entire supply chain. These requirements are enforced but it is all necessary to ensure food safety. And it may be worth the effort with the potential for your business's growth and expansion.
So since we've been introduced to the USAID Trade and Investment Hub, we've really seen our traction in the US grow. They were absolutely pivotal in helping us get into the first trade show that helped us be successful in the US and have continued to support us. They certainly have been instrumental in allowing us to grow into the US.
The United States consumes 25% of the world's apparel, and its demand is growing. Traditionally, Asia has been a major source of US textiles and apparel imports. But as Asia becomes more expensive, the US is increasingly looking to Africa. The main reason, importers in the US can save up to 35% under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA for short, by virtue of not having to pay import duties. This is a massive incentive for US importers and a major opportunity for African suppliers. At the same time, the higher duties that non-AGOA countries must pay make the sector susceptible to fraud, smuggling, undervaluation, and inaccurate descriptions of goods and misuse of trade preference programs. As a result, textiles and apparel are a priority issue for United States Customs and Border Protection, which must enforce regulations and conduct on-site inspections to verify compliance with programs like AGOA. Therefore, it's essential for you to ensure that you adhere to all rules and meet all requirements in terms of documentation, labeling, and eligibility. Specific rules for textiles and apparel can be found in Chapter 98 of the Harmonized Tariff Schedule. You'll also find more detail and guidance in the AGOA Export User Manual. Among the most important rules, every shipment must have a textile certificate of origin issued by the origin country's revenue authority. Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, and Zambia are categorized as less developed beneficiary countries. They are therefore eligible for the third country fabric rule, which allows them to benefit from AGOA for some products even if fabric is imported from a non-eligible country. Additionally, your invoice must state the proper classification and correct item number of goods, according to the Harmonized Tariff Schedule. It must also have the appropriate and complete AGOA visa stamp on the front. And each category in the shipment must have a separate stamp. Textile and apparel products also need to have labels indicating the fiber content and care instructions. You'll find helpful links to labeling information in the AGOA Export User Manual. Following these rules and regulations will go a long way to helping you successfully export your textiles and apparel to a large and enthusiastic United States market.
I export about 50 to 60% of my business to the USA. It's definitely a growing market. Because Champal is a leather product and we use exotic skins, we need to actually have certain documentation in place in order to export to the USA. A certain percentage of your product needs to be sourced and manufactured locally, and it needs to go directly to the USA. I don't think I'd be exporting as much as I do without the AGOA duty-free benefits. It makes our product more affordable to the USA buyer, and Champal is more competitive in that market.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Masilela, for sharing those videos. I'm sure you can see that we have all the information, at our disposal. And probably we can even get more, information in terms of other sectors on how to export them, when we go to that portal that I talked about earlier. So when you say you don't know how to export textile to the US, I don't know. It's there. The video is there. It's clear. So thank you very much. I think it's helping. And to the Trade Hub, I think it's also helping in the format in which they've simplified it. The video format. You just send it to any trader and say, look at this, see how it can help you. Yeah, thank you very much. So now we go to another session, unless there are any questions, comments from the floor before we go to the next session. Comments? No comments. Okay, we have to go to sharing of experiences, because when you implement something, when you are part of that steering committee, then you come across some of the challenges that Umkazi mentioned here. Then you need to ask others, hey, you guys, how are you doing it? We seem to be having this problem here. How are you able to go about it and all of that? So we are getting into that session now. We have someone from the region who is going to give us their perspective. They've also done an AGOA strategy, and they've done the implementation, so they will be sharing with us, telling us that, okay, firstly, the steering committee, this is what needs to be done, because I think that's where it will have to start with us here, showing the commitment. So I'm waiting for Masilela to give me the signal that we can go to that. So that's why I'm asking if there are any comments at this point. Tandega, no comments. No comments. Okay. So we are still okay. Yeah, whenever you're ready, Martin, just give me the note. Then we'll introduce the person from Botswana. And in terms of the material in front of you, I think Buli is going to give us even more, because I think we might be having more copies, so that you can, keep in your library and then keep one in your office, because seemingly we are adding your responsibilities now daily. It must be next to you. Yeah. Looking in terms of if they are saying the leather sector is there, what are the recommendations? What needs to be done on a daily basis, so that we can make this thing work? So I think we will be having that opportunity. All right, so we are ready now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have Tsepo from the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Botswana. He's a trade officer, so he's going to be taking us through their perspective, sharing their experience in terms of how they work as a committee and also how they've implemented the AGOA strategy. Tsepo, we welcome you, and over to you. You have the floor. You can go ahead and make your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope I'm audible.
We can hear you, Tsepo.
Okay, thank you so much. Tsepo is she.
Okay, sorry about that. Apologies.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you so much. I hope that I'm audible to everyone, and I hope there's no background noise. Yes, my name is Tsepo Munyakeng from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. I'm working as a trade officer responsible for trade development, specifically AGOA relations. Thank you so much for inviting me to this very important meeting. And I'm here to share my experience with the rest of the participants in terms of how in Botswana we are implementing the AGOA program, and also in terms of the strategy for Botswana, how we have formulated it, and also in terms of the development of the structuring of the reference group, how it has been structured. I hope I was clear.
Yes, you are very clear, Tsepo.
Okay,
please proceed.
Thank you so much. Oh, yes, thank you so much. I don't know who has control over the slide, but we can go to the next slide. Yeah, this slide particularly talks about how as Botswana when and how we have developed the AGOA strategy. Our first strategy was in 2017, just slightly after the reauthorization of the AGOA program in 2015, of which the first strategy now was a institution-led strategy. We had tasked the one of the institutions, Botswana Investment and Trade Center, recognizing that it's a trade facilitation agency in the country, to coordinate, or maybe not to coordinate, to facilitate the implementation of the strategy. And through that initiative, we did recognize a few challenges in terms of now making it an institution-led strategy. Hence, and then in 2011, before I go to that element, the strategy that was coordinated by Botswana Investment and Trade Center, it was coordinated to the level of institutions, where we had the various institutions in the in the steering committee, who had functions for various functions for various tasks and activities. And we had a little bit of a challenge in terms of the coordination, and also a challenge in terms of how now do we gather information, and how now do we put together a fulfilled report and say we are monitoring, or we are getting the fruits of our activities. So in 2021, we launched the revised strategy. That particular strategy had a lot of new elements. One of the very key elements was restructuring the steering committee. The steering committee now had 5 layers. The first layer was the overhead steering committee, which comprised of the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Trade, that's number one, and also the key sector-led business associations, which is Business Botswana and Botswana Exporters and Manufacturers Association. And the most interesting aspect is We also added in the civil society, Botswana Council of Non-Governmental Organizations, and we also included the US Trade Hub as one of the participants now, or one of the members of the AGOA Steering Committee. The functions of that particular layer, the first layer of those 6 organizations or maybe institutions, was to actually now govern the work or analyze or interpret or guide the work of the 4 subcommittees which I'm about to mention now. Now, the subcommittees that I'm going to mention include the subcommittee that is responsible for market access, one that is responsible for trade facilitation, one that is responsible for the specific sector issues or sector activities, and also last but not least, the gender and youth inclusion subcommittees. So we did establish 4 subcommittees. Those subcommittees, they report to the main committee, the first committee that I talked about, which had the Minister of Trade and everything. As the Minister of Trade, we are the secretariat and we are also the chair of that particular reference committee. So this particular restructuring did assist us to basically now understand the core issues and actually tackle them, specific issues according to their specific needs. And now the strategy being a sector-led, where we use the bottom-up approach, we decided that this will be the best way to actually now execute the strategy, because we are trying on something that is new. It's something that we have not been tried. Hence why we now said, okay, let us make this a private sector or a sector-led implementation of the AGOA strategy. And very importantly, we did recognize the role of youth and women in AGOA and the specific roles that they play in AGOA. We can go to the next slide. Yes, in terms of, and then after the formulation of that particular structure of the strategy, we collaborated with USAID, which has always been the main support agency for AGOA implementation in Botswana. And we collaborated with them, where we now looking at the new developments. You know, with the COVID, there were a lot of, would I say, misplaced opportunities, and there are so many challenges now. And even though there are challenges, those challenges, do we have some lessons that come with those challenges, and do we have some opportunities that are aligned to the COVID and also its effect. So we did bring all the 4 sectors under one roof. Sorry, not the 4 sectors, the 4 subcommittees under one roof. And then we decided to educate them a bit, school them a bit, capacitate them a bit, so that they can be able to execute the duties effectively, looking at the new developments, looking at how things now are done now. So we did undertake a capacity building workshop in 2021, of which the outcomes were included to discuss the vision, success, and changes. And challenges learned with regard to AGOA, and how we have what is it that previously has worked and what is it that has not worked. We wanted to create that holistic understanding of the roles and responsibilities of everyone, so that everyone will know and understand how what is it that they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to do it, and how they can actually work together with the next person to be able to fulfill that particular activity or that particular milestone. And also to talk about or discuss the goals and the initiatives as per each subcommittee action plans, because we did develop action plans per subcommittee. And also now looking at how do we align the monitoring and evaluation and reporting of the implementation of the new strategy. So that is basically how, or maybe basically the reason why we did that particular workshop. So in terms of education or sensitization of the steering committee, we realized that it is very important, and regular engagement and workshopping to just clearly outline and remind colleagues of what is it that we need to do in order to be successful in terms of capitalizing on the remaining period for AGOA. We can go to the next slide. And in terms of the direct initiatives that were to implement this new strategy, we developed what we themed as the AGOA Sector Master Plan. This is a direct initiative that was initiated by the four sectors: the natural products, the jewelry, semi-precious, jewelry and semi-precious stones, leather and leather products, and as well as textile and apparel. These are the four sectors that are of the focus of the new strategy, and hence we also carried it down now to the master plan. The master plan is a very, very detailed document that we said, this is a document that we're saying in terms of to achieve, not to talk about a high level initiative of it, but now to talk about the technical aspect initiative of it. Because as Botswana, we are a small country. We've had some export challenges before, and we are in recognition of the fact that we need to elevate some significant initiatives in order for us to fulfill the challenges that to fulfill the expectations of taking advantage of AGOA, even other markets as well. So we did develop this particular document to align with our national activities. So this plan, like I did mention, is a private sector plan, and it is led by the four sectors: the Natural Products Association of Botswana, the Jewelry Manufacturers Association of Botswana, the Textile and Apparel Association of Botswana, the Leather Entrepreneurs Association of Botswana, and also we have the youth and gender-led organizations such as the Women in Business Association, and also the African Women's Entrepreneurship Program, which also leads the Gender and Youth Inclusion Subcommittee. I think we can go to the next one, the next slide. Yes, the master plan was developed last year, was developed in 2021, and it was adopted during one of the sittings of the reference group, where the sectors presented the individual plans or expectations of what the master plan is supposed to be doing. And the meeting acceded to that particular document, and we were given a go-ahead now to start the implementation of this particular document. So in February, we worked again with the Trade Hub to undertake an implementation workshop, of which we brought together development agencies, financial institutions, and any interested party that is centered on either creating job creation, economic diversification, industrialization, and trade development to basically play a part in terms of the implementation of the master plan, because the master plan focuses on a whole lot of elements. We have issues of standards, we have issues of URS, we have of unified revenue services, we have issues of certifications, we have issues of industrialization, SME development. So we have those cross-cutting issues that are instilled in that master plan, hence why it needs all hands on deck type of an approach. So we do have, we have identified specific support agencies. We have identified specific initiatives under that master plan, of which we are saying that this is an initiative that we want to use to drive to AGOA, and also the anticipated AGOA expiry 2025. So the next slide basically just highlights. We can go to the next slide. The next slide just basically, hello? Yeah, the next slide, this particular one, just basically shows the relationships that we have developed in terms of the implementation, the direct implementation of AGOA. We have the Trade Forward Southern Africa by the British Council. We have the Botswana Unified Revenue Service. We have the World Intellectual Property Organization. We have the USAID, which I've just keep mentioning. We have the Citizen Economic Development Agency, which is in Botswana. We have Botswana Investment and Trade Center. Just that the slide was a little bit too small. I couldn't put all of them in there, but we have an array of stakeholders that we're working with to implement the AGOA going forward. And on the next slide, I just put these there so that we can just, I just share with you the experiences that we have, the types of challenges. We can go to the next slide. The types of challenges that we have within, in terms of now leveraging on AGOA, and these are the challenges that we actually recognized during the formulation of the master plan. So you see, there is a correlation between the strategy, the master plan, and the national initiatives. So in terms of the challenges, we have identified some policy challenges and some implementation challenges. The policy challenges are related to the standards for our export markets, the logistical challenges where we are landlocked, and some limited brand recognition. And in terms of the implementation, we still have this reoccurring issue of our stakeholders sometimes working in silos and not really correlating information or correlating efforts. So we have established some mechanisms to try and curb those challenges. We have some parallel opportunities that really lack coordination, and also we have some funding issues for particular projects, but we are working with certain agencies to also curb this problem. I think the trade finance issues, everyone can relate to that, especially in this region, and also the importation of raw materials. We can go to the next slide. Okay, and also now, the opportunities that we have realized in terms of the formulation of this master plan or the implementation of this revised strategy is we realize opportunities in terms of our policies, how we can structure them, what preventions can we capitalize on, what is it that we can focus on, and what initiatives or what new initiatives that we can actually leverage on. We've looked at the developing rules of origin certificates that are e-based. We want to also leverage on the diaspora policies that we have, or maybe there could be an opportunity to review or so that we can properly utilize these policies. We recently have the Special Economic Zones Authority, which is now looking into capitalizing on the Special Economic Zones aspect. And also we do have existing opportunities under some trade and industry acts that are existing. In terms of the implementation, we have realized that the use of clusters for market access is very important, and technical and vocational skills utilization is also very important, as it looks very deep into now skills transfer and all the other elements that are related to it. We are looking at partnerships with lending institutions and also development partners. We realize that this is actually a framework for long-term investment and also long-term engagements for the AGOA strategy or with trade with the US. And also we are exploring the mentoring and also digital marketing initiatives because as Botswana, we are really looking towards elevating our brand as Botswana to the international market. And also last but not least, sector specific standards, because we're looking towards developing some standards which are specific towards each and every industry. The industries that I mentioned, natural products, jewelry, semi-precious stones, leather, and also textile. Thank you so much for your attention. I think for that, I want to thank you for allowing me to make this presentation, and I'll stand to be guided what goes on after here. Thank you. Thank you. I'm done.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hi, Tipo. Hello, Tipo, can you hear me? Hello? She's no longer in the. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, there you are. So now we have heard from what other countries are doing. Unfortunately, Tsepo is now, I think she might have left the meeting. Yet she's back. She's there. Okay.
Yes, I'm here. I'm
You
here.
can even ask questions. Okay. So she can hear me now.
Yes, I
Okay. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Tsepo. Thank you very much for that presentation. You know, you touched on all the points. It's like you knew some of the challenges that we are facing here. And yeah, we really appreciate it. It's giving us a guideline in terms of how we can take it going forward. And obviously, from what I picked from you is the bottom-up, approach. Let the private sector lead the process, and then they report to us, and then tell us what needs to happen. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So I think maybe there are questions that you want to ask as a committee. So you can ask now. My question, Tsepo, will be, how do you ensure that you get commitment from the various subcommittees that you have in terms of making sure they drive the process? I also wanted to understand the meetings. Do you meet on a quarterly basis? And maybe if you can just clarify that. And looking at the target on an annual basis, what have you set for yourself? Because I know that you mentioned the COVID-19 being a challenge, losing something like 2 years. So now we're going to 2025. So probably you have a strategy to try and fast track things. How are you handling those things? So please stay online. Maybe I'm going to take another question from someone so that we can have maybe two questions that you can respond to. Colleagues, let's ask. It's a bottom-up, private sector-led. Yes, Marcelo.
Yeah, just one question from me. So I can see I can note the different structures of the implementation team, a national committee with subcommittees. So who form part of the national committee? Because there are 4 subcommittees, and then now who forms part of the national committee?
Yeah. Tsepo, so you can go ahead and respond to these questions, 2 questions. I'm sure I'm going to have 2 more after these 2. Go ahead, Tsepo.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to respond to the last question. I just need a little bit of clarity. If you say the national committee, I did mention that there's 5 layers, the new structure. There is the upper layer, which comprises of 6 members, and then there is the 4 subcommittees. You want to know who forms part of the manufacturers, the trade facilitation, or you are only talking about top committee first? I just need a little bit of clarity to that. Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So I will assume that I think in terms of the upper layer that you are making reference to, I'll think that this is the topmost the topmost part of the structure. So I wanted to find out who is serving in that structure. Is it a fair representation of the private sector and government, or who exactly is in the topmost upper structure of you?
Okay. No, I think that's very clear. Yes, we have attempted to create balance between the private sector and the government, and also the inclusion of society. So the 6 membership is for number 1, government, who stands as the chair, and then we have the co-chair, which is the business community. We have 2 members of the business community that are sitting on the chair. We have Botswana Exporters and Manufacturers. We have business Botswana. Those are 2 that serve the private sector interests. And then we have the civil society and for governance issues, and then now we have the Ministry of Trade, the chair, and we also have USAID as another member at national committee. That is how we structure it.
Okay. Yeah. I think we're getting the picture there.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can go to the other questions in terms of yeah.
Okay. I hope that yeah, and I'll put that. You talked about the commitment, or not maybe the commitments by the subcommittee. How do we ensure commitment by the subcommittee? Remember, this is a private sector led strategy, and the initiatives are initiated by the private sector. So the private sector's interest is to say, my interest is to build a business. My interest is to ensure that the profits that I gained actually help my business to progress to another level. So those initiatives strategically make them to be private sector led, because through the private sector we know that there will be direct advocacy, there will be direct, because we are saying we want a private sector led economy in Botswana. And that private sector led economy has supported by the various institutions that are there, whether it's Botswana Investment Center, whether it's by Botswana Bureau Standards, whether it's by Botswana Unified Revenue Service, whether it's by development agencies such as UNDP, of which we keep on going back to it and a dialogue, engagement with, to just fully solidify how do we now structure our initiative. So in terms of getting the commitments from all the members of the 4 subcommittees, we are ensuring that all the initiatives, they are led by the private sector. And we have ensured that through the private sector or through the subcommittee for the sector specific, every initiative that is started under the implementation of the reverse strategy is led by either a private sector or a private sector institution. commitments. And in terms of the meeting frequency, to ensure that we have at least one meeting a month to keep track of the progress, to engage the stakeholders, to keep people occupied, to ensure that nothing falls off the, and we keep on ensuring as the Secretariat, as the Department of International Trade under the Ministry of Trade, as the Secretariat, we are ensuring that we keep regular tabs on the activities. We don't report processes. We report on exact activities and their outputs to say what is it that has been done, what are the challenges, how now do we tackle this challenge. And yeah, and in terms of the coordination of the issues, like I mentioned, the ministry sits as the chair of that whole national committee, but as the secretariat, the Department of International Trade within the ministry, we are the main coordination agency, or main coordination institution for the strategy, and we work directly with the private sector to ensure that commitments made under are undertaken and reported on.
Okay. No, thank you very much for that. I think, yeah, it's giving us guidance. So the mere fact that it's private sector led, that is incentive enough, to make sure that we drive the process. There is commitment and all of that. No, thank you, thank you, Tsepo. I don't know if there are any questions. Yes, Mr. Jangase, go ahead.
Hello, Tsepo. You're speaking to Bongani. My question would be on the funding model, the provision of budgets. How is it structured? The operations for the different committees, subcommittees, and all the activities of the AGOA initiatives. Where do you get your funding from, or how is it sourced?
Thank you, Bongani. It's a very interesting question because when we look at the strategy, the way that it was related or the way it was implemented, it didn't have a very direct funding model, but it's a new strategy. The deliberate attempt to the deliberate initiative to make private sector-led strategy is because we're saying the government does not implement. It is the private sector who implements and who produces output. So in terms of the funding model, we have created an activity-based funding model where we're saying the funding will be the specific activity, provided they've been vetted, provided they've been analyzed, provided agreed upon. So that's the model that we and also in terms of the assistance for funding, we have some various institutions that we've identified that have really committed to say the funding activity.
Okay. No, thank you very much for sharing that. Again, there is another question, so stay on the line.
Thank you, Tsepo, again. I just want to hear about the involvement. I thought you mentioned something about the non-governmental organizations. So I just want to hear how was the involvement of the national NGOs, and which part were they playing in the structure? Were they on the national steering committee or the subcommittees? Just a clarity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. The role of we have elevated the role of the non-governmental organization. We have elevated it to the national committee because we didn't want to limit their role. Hence why we put them in the national committee where they can work together with the ministry and those two private sector-led organizations to actually guide the work of the four subcommittees.
activities.
Thank you.
All right. No, thank you very much, Tsepo. I think it is indeed helping us, as we prepare ourselves to also implement, our strategy. Any more questions? Okay, I think everyone is okay now. Yeah, let's give Tsepo a round of applause. I think she was spot on in terms of the issues that, she presented. So. Okay, I think we can proceed, ladies and gentlemen. So there you are. It's doable. Other countries in the region are doing it, and that's the structure in which they've used, to implement bottom-up approach, led by the Leather Association. Some sectors, some are led by those that are in natural products. I think that's what they mentioned. That's the structure in which they've taken. So I think as we do our breakaway sessions, to discuss in terms of how now we fill in those gaps that were mentioned by Mr. Njanga. So we need to look into this. The element of gender, I think it's also there. And I think it's one of the things that we need to look into, gender and the youth. Women-owned businesses and also youth-owned enterprises. I think these are things that we are all aligning ourselves with. So perhaps we need to look into it as well. So, Mr. Masilela, what do we do now? Yeah, maybe you take that session in terms of guiding us where we go from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mnisi. I think at this point in time, so we are going to break into probably two groups. So we will look at probably agriculture and non-agricultural sectors. I think because of the limitations that we have, I think the more we break into more groups, we might have some groups having few people or no representation at all. So I think, so as our approach in the Trade Hub, we normally look at agriculture as well as non-agricultural activities. So I think for the purpose of this exercise, we'll basically break into two groups. What we are trying to do now, we are looking at the strategy. So we'll be looking at the strategy and then look at the sectors that are that fall within that particular group. We'll highlight the gaps that we think should be filled, and then some opportunities as well. So we'll go through the strategy. I believe that everyone has a copy. If you don't have a copy, make sure that you get a copy. I think we have enough copies of the strategy. So what we're going to do there, we'll look into the strategy and then focus on the sectors that are falling on that particular group. I'll just announce those different sectors. And then we'll look at the gaps that we have to fill in as part of the steering committee. You'll note that this strategy was crafted before COVID-19. So a lot has actually changed within the context of the operational environment. So there could be some elements that were incorporated then, that were relevant then, but also potentially there could be some additions that we need to fill up, given the fact that the environment in which you are playing in has changed drastically. So we'll look into that as well. And then we will highlight the products. I think If you read the beginning parts of the strategy, you'll understand that there are some products that are highlighted where probably as a committee, we have to focus on. And then from there, I think we should be able to create some committees, subcommittees. I think we've just heard from the example of Botswana. They've got sectoral specific committees that are basically looking at those sectors to make sure that there is nothing that is lacking behind, and it's a more inclusive approach to implementation. So that's exactly what we are going to do. I say that we will look at the gaps. So look at the gaps, we'll highlight the gaps. If there are some elements of implementation that we think they have to be incorporated for our particular sectors that we are looking at. And then number two, we are going to look at the products, the specific products. As we indicated, so currently there is a list of products, I think, on the beginning part of the strategy. There are some products that we are currently trading on AGOA as a country, which are listed together with the trade values that are currently being realized. Probably if you think that there are products that the country should focus on that are not there, you will have to highlight those products and then for consideration. Like we said, the environment has changed. Innovation is also taking place. There could be some products, and then I think the duty or the task of the steering committee will basically be looking at whether those products, additional products, qualify or does not qualify under the 6,500 products that are listed under AGOA. Yes, and then number four, we have to make some recommendation as to, with regards to the subcommittees that we think should be represented, the specific sector subcommittees that should be represented. And as we do that, we can also try to identify the participants of those subcommittees. So we need to try to identify participants in those different subcommittees. For instance, if we are saying, okay, there should be a food manufacturing, I'm just giving you an example, a food manufacturing subcommittee, who are the potential participants and arts within the country, or which institutions or which players can be part of that subcommittee. So we're going to do that exercise as the two groups, and then after lunch, so we'll have this time, which I think we've got 25 minutes before lunch. So we'll have to go through the strategy and do those activities, and then after that, after lunch, we are going to, so these two groups are going to do a